This right here is the Zhiyun Crane 3S, a brand new gimbal built for larger cinema cameras. Now this is great because it's small, it's compact, but super powerful. So I'm going to talk all about this in today's video. So first of all, why does this exist? Well, this gimbal is basically bridging a gap that has needed to be bridged for quite some time now. It's not a DJI Ronin S and it's not a Movi Pro, for example. It's somewhere in the middle. It's allowing you to fly larger cameras with bigger payloads, but it's not a massive rig. It's a nice, small, compact rig. Of course, though, as you could imagine, holding a gimbal in this position with a big, heavy cinema camera on it is going to fatigue you extremely quickly. So this thing is not built for continuous long shots. This is built for pick it up, film for a minute or two, put it down and rest your arms. Moving on though, let's talk about the gimbal itself. So first of all, the gimbal comes with this handle here and you have two different options. You've got the easy sling and then you've got this, which is the smart sling handle. And this is really useful because you can control the gimbal through a few different buttons here. And it also works with a focus and zoom control if you get the Pro version of this gimbal. And then if you're pretty familiar with any other gimbal, as you know, this thing has got locks in it, which means you can lock the axes when you're not using them. And this is really great for transport. This isn't anything new, but this gimbal has introduced two-step locks, which is really handy. So you can pull the lock into the second position, and then once it finds its spot which it wants to live in, it clicks and you can just tighten that up to make that nice and secure. In the box, you get this Manfrotto plate, and this plate is really useful because this is your standard size Manfrotto tripod plate. So if you have a Manfrotto tripod or a glide cam or a slider, for example, you can literally just pop this off the gimbal onto a tripod straight away. There's no switching plates in between takes, and this is really useful. And then with this plate comes these two rods. Now these are smaller than your typical 15mm rods, and this is a little bit annoying, but you can get adapters if you wanted to use follow focus motors with the gimbal. And then of course we've got this lens support at the bottom, which is definitely needed because without a lens support, the lens can wiggle a little bit on your camera and this can cause the gimbal to vibrate. So I would seriously suggest putting this onto your camera. We've got the camera built. We're just going to pop this onto the gimbal with it locked in place. Now balancing this gimbal isn't really an issue. If you've balanced a gimbal before, then you'll know exactly how to do this. You just have to adjust all of the axes, and if it falls in one direction, then you just adjust it to go in the opposite direction. So straight out of the box, if you've used the gimbal before, then this is super easy. And there you go. We've pretty much got the camera balanced up now. It's pretty much ready to go. So we can just go ahead and we can pop the batteries into the gimbal. So we're just going to take this cover off, and we have these 3 batteries that come with the gimbal. Now they claim, I think 9 hours, the website says, of gimbal use, which is very generous. It's really good. And I've used this on a few shoots now, and not once have I ever killed these batteries. These do look like AA batteries, but don't be confused. These are not AA batteries, and this thing does not power on AA batteries. You need these specific Zhiyun batteries, but they do come with the gimbal, so don't worry about having to purchase these extra. So we're just going to slot these into place, and then we can just pop the cover back onto the gimbal, and now we have power for the gimbal. So this is where we can go ahead and power this thing on. Now this extension arm right here is the main selling point of this gimbal. Gimbals in this form factor, this handheld form factor, are typically a lot shorter here, and this means only DSLR and mirrorless cameras can fit onto this. But because of this extension arm, it means I can put a big red camera with a lens, a V-lock onto the back of the camera, and it doesn't bump into the back of the gimbal. I've got plenty of clearance to do all the filming and all the creative shots that I like. Now, of course, the monitor will bump into the back of this, and this is because the monitor is extremely tall. So the workaround for this is to mount this monitor onto the side of the gimbal. Of course, though, if you're not shooting on Red and you're shooting on any other camera, then chances are the monitor is going to be a lot smaller and you won't have any issues with clearance. You can do a full 360 and you won't have any problems. Now, I could go on all day about all the smart features that this gimbal has, but all of those features don't really matter in scale to the performance. The question that you probably want to know is, how does this gimbal operate? Honestly, in most cases, this gimbal is exceptional. I've found when I'm doing typical tracking shots moving forwards and back or going left to right, this gimbal is absolutely perfect when in upright mode. I do find though that if I go into underslung mode, I do get a little bit of vibration on the motors. Fortunately, the vibration isn't too much. I can fix this in the edit with warp stabilizer, but it's not perfect. I have done a firmware update on this because the vibration used to be quite bad, but there's still a minor vibration. I only ever see this though when I'm in underslung mode or transitioning from underslung up into normal mode. When I'm in normal mode though, this gimbal is absolutely exceptional. It produces some really smooth footage. Now this gimbal can take an extremely heavy payload, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. And this means that I can use the RED camera on a gimbal. Before this, I was using a glide cam and a steady cam. Because traditional gimbals that fall under the bar, it's quite difficult to get them up high to get nice performance shots for music videos. So I never really used gimbals because I couldn't quite get them high enough to get a nice shot at eyeline level. But because this camera sits all the way at the top of this gimbal, it means I can effortlessly capture eyeline shots of performances. There's loads of really smart, intelligent features that this gimbal offers you, and they're all really great, but the main thing, yes, this gimbal handles very well. It has a small vibration issue when you're in underslung mode, but besides that, this gimbal is great, and I would recommend this gimbal, providing that you don't need it for those low shots. Of course, Zhiyun might release another update to completely fix this issue, but this is a minor issue that I have found with this gimbal. But besides that, this gimbal is an extremely well-rounded piece of equipment, and I would definitely be bringing this to video shoots in the future. Now, just to be clear, if you're shooting on a DSLR or a small mirrorless camera, then this gimbal is absolutely overkill. You may as well get a small gimbal because you don't need all this clearance. It's only these larger cinema cameras that need the extra clearance and therefore need this bigger gimbal. So if you're shooting on something smaller, then just invest your money into something a little bit smaller. But if you are shooting on cinema or TV cameras like the Sony FS7, Canon C500, Red, Gemini, then I would seriously recommend this piece of equipment. And there you go. If you want to see more videos on this Zhiyun Crane 3S, then please do let me know in the comment section below, and I promise I will get back to you with an answer. So there you go, the Zhiyun Crane 3S, I love it, it's really awesome. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next episode. See you there.